Hello, everyone. Welcome back again. This is Hour of Healing. I am your host, Candice. I'm here with Dr. Joe Deborah. As usual, we are here to discuss another thought-provoking topic, and we're gonna see what it's about today. But before we begin, Dr. Joe, welcome.
Thank you, Candice. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. And viewers, we hope you are good. Your week has been well. Don't forget to share as usual to your loved ones and buckle up because this is Hour of Healing. All right. Today's topic is going to be about when God finds a man. So we are going to find out, break it down into bits and pieces as usual, get to the motive behind it, how or why God inspired this topic, and we'll see where we go from here. So, Dr. Joe, how did this come about?
Yes, Sister Candice, thank you so much for hosting us again this week on Hour of Healing. And as always, we seek the grace of God to be able to be in line with what God is doing or intends to do per
Mhm,
season, per time.
mhm,
And there is every indication that we are in a season where God is birthing a lot of things through people. And it's not appear to the carnal eye for the most part because it's not going through the usual channels
mm,
that usually revivals and awakenings and reconstitution of nations and morality goes through. God is in our day and in our time, and I'm speaking this by the mercies of God based on certain graces that He has given us privilege to carry. He is picking ordinary men. And when I say ordinary, I'm talking about outside the pulpit. And he is endowing with various graces and wisdom to birth his purpose. And it is unlike I've ever read about. And by the mercies of God, I've read and watched and listened to a lot of stories about many revivals, and
mhm,
so it dawned upon my heart that if we're going to be partakers of this divine assignment or divine movement, we need to understand the principles of being someone that God picks or God uses. And
interesting.
so that's truly what inspired this topic, that there is a kind of person that God is looking for. There is a kind of person that God uses.
Mm,
God doesn't use any and everyone. He
mm,
can use any and everyone, but there are
mm,
certain specifics. And
mm,
so those are really the depths or the principles that by the mercies of God, Sister Candice, we look to be able to unlock as we delve into this series. It's going to be a series of conversations over a couple of weeks, but we will pray and seek God's guidance as to how we'll be able to maneuver this. And so hopefully that answers your question, but that's
mm.
truly the background and the source of this topic.
Wow, that's very powerful and interesting. I'm already, intrigued as to where this is gonna go. And whilst I was listening, I was thinking to myself, how normally, as women, we're like, oh, I want to meet my Mr. Right, I want to meet this, I want to meet that. But just listening to you, what's coming to me is, that sometimes you have to position yourself and prepare yourself to be what you want, right? To be what you want someone to pick, basically. So be
Right.
somebody's right. So this is something that we're going to talk about in detail. We have to
Absolutely.
be God's right, God's Miss or Mr. Right for him to pick,
Mhm.
right? But I can't help but think, so when we speak about finding, God finding a man, are we going into, should I say, ministerial, or like where are
Mhm.
we going with
Mhm.
this topic so that we can narrow it, or we can let our listeners narrow it to where our thought process is going to go today? Is it ministerial? Is it career, or like what is it? Entrepreneurship?
Wow.
Parents
Wow.
and men to do what, right? Parents and men to
Well,
make babies? Like what are we talking about here?
well, thank you so much, Sister Candice. That's a very powerful and very important question that you asked. And that is because there is this understanding or there is this notion out there that God only uses people in ministry. So whether it's in the pulpit or it has to have something to do with church. And I humbly submit to our audience, Sister Candace, that couldn't be farther from the truth. You
Mm.
know, when you go to the basics or the essence of humanity, when God created man, he didn't create us just to be ministers unto him. He has angels for that purpose.
Mhm.
Yes, we are also ministers unto our God, but our ministry is very, very different. And how is it different? Our ministry is the ministry of kings and priests.
Mhm.
Kings and priests.
Mhm.
And you know, second is when you go to the book of Genesis, which is the book of beginnings, you begin to realize or understand. And I was studying this book again not too long ago, and you begin to realize and understand that the priest was truly functioning as a king. And with time, when God began to give kings to his people, that is when the priesthood and kingship started differing,
Mm.
right? And so in those days, God will pick someone and make them a judge, right? And
Mhm.
these judges will function as a king, but at the same time, they were functioning as priests because they were handpicked by God. And so they never even had the title king until God's people actually asked for a human king. And
Mm.
that is where the contrast became very stark. And so when we get to the life of David, which is one of the case studies we will study, we will at that time begin to understand what I meant by this king priest formula that God created us to be. But
Mhm.
to answer your question, in the book of beginnings, which is Genesis that I referred to, God really did not make kings, neither did he make priests.
Mm.
And so you look at all the Persian kingdoms, they all had kings. But the interesting thing is that God will use his servants as the answers to the problems of priesthood for the kings. And
Mm.
so this dynamic has always been God's
Mm.
formula.
Mm.
I know I'm being lengthy, but Sister Candice, is very important for our audience to understand that when God is looking for a person, he is not looking for a preacher. He is not looking for a pastor's wife. He is not looking for a board member of a church. That is, it's not wrong, but that is not a complete list of the people that God is looking for. The people that God is looking for are people who will birth his purpose. And the
Mm.
purpose of God, I submit to our audience humbly, that is not all in the pulpits or in a church building. In
Mm.
fact, church buildings never became a thing until the ark of God was established.
Mm.
All
Mm.
right. And so when we talk about when God finds a man, we are talking about the things that will make you a vessel of God no matter what you are doing in your life. And
Mm.
so, regardless of your career path, regardless of your background, regardless of how sinful or how holy your life has been, the essence of our discussion today is to help you understand that God is looking for people. He has always been looking for people.
Mm.
And the people that he is looking for, he says they must be people whose heart are set on him,
Mm.
not a people who are ready to pick a Bible to go preach.
Mm.
It's a matter of the heart. It's not a
Mm.
matter of doing necessarily. It's more of an issue of our affinity to God
Right. Right.
than what we can do for him. And I don't know if that clarifies your question.
Yeah, that clarifies it in a lot of ways. And, and sometimes you look at people, especially, there are families where you can tell this is like a ministerial family. Like everybody there can
Mm,
preach, right?
mm,
Or you can tell this family is like a business family. Like most people in the family are doing business or medical field family. And sometimes you wonder out of all of these people, God has like there is one that has been elevated, right?
mm,
And then when you look around the family background or within the family, you wonder to yourself, why this person? That's the question that many people ask because maybe their background, they were like a bad boy, bad girl,
Mm,
or they did not they probably don't speak better English. There's somebody in the family that speak better English. So you think about all these things when you think about the bigger picture of what we are talking about, and we realize what you just said, that it's not about what a man can do or where they are coming from. So it's very powerful to say or to land on the fact that it's a matter of the heart, because I believe this discussion, not just this one, but the many more we're gonna have, is going to answer a lot of questions, especially in a workplace. People are like, why this girl? Why are they promoting this person? Why this?
mm,
Why that?
mm,
But they are little things, right?
right.
And I love this. So I actually want us to find out right now what actually in a man is God looking for, right?
Mm,
So that when someone is listening, they can, if they need to work on themselves so that they will be worthy, not worthy, they will be presentable enough for God to pick them. So,
wow.
what exactly in a man? Is it their mind? Or what is in their heart actually that God is looking for?
That is a very powerful question, Sister Candace. And the source of the answer will be very shocking to a lot of our audience because most of the time when we talk about topics like this, people will tend to think that it is us being churchy and things of that nature.
Ain't gonna
But
be.
to understand what God is looking for a man, you have to understand what men look for in men or what human beings look for in other human beings. And the reason for this, Sister Candace, is that every single human being is looking for God in their life,
Mm,
whether they acknowledge it or don't acknowledge it.
mm,
Every single person is looking for God.
wow.
And the reason is because when God created man, he put in man an affinity towards himself.
Mm,
He put in man something that will draw man to him.
mm,
And so, no matter what you believe or don't believe, you are looking for God in whatever ways that you are looking right now. For
mm,
instance, someone will say, I don't believe in God. I am not religious. But that same person will go and stand at a sports game, take their shirt off in the winter, and be screaming and cheering so passionately
for some.
for a team, for his or her fellow human beings. Where do you think that passion came from? That passion came from your desire to worship something.
Mm,
And
mm,
so, even though you claim that you are irreligious or you don't worship any higher being, you are actually worshiping a sports team.
you worshiping.
And the definition of worship is a reverence given to a higher being. And so, yes, you may not be using the words that I'm using. You may not be describing it the way I'm describing it. But at the end of the day, that passion in you is sponsored by your desire to find God in whatever you are looking for Him in.
Mm,
And Candace, this is very important
mm,
because in our day and age, there are many gods that people have found. Some
mm,
have found their business to be God. Some have found their career, whether physician, a nurse, a banker, a lawyer, a teacher, whatever it is, some have found that to be God.
mhm,
Some have found church as the building, a denomination to be God. And
mhm,
yet there are others who have found God Himself as God.
mm,
Why am I saying all these things? The reason why the God conversation becomes very difficult is that a lot of people think that because someone belongs to a denomination, they have found God. No, there are many people who are worshiping churches and not God. In fact, let me be very blunt. There are pastors who are worshiping their church and not the one true God.
Mm.
Why? Because you may have heard me say that if God should come and tell them to shut down the church because he wants to do something else with their lives, they will refuse it, they will bind it, they will cast it out as a devil. All right. So, what is God looking for in a man? It's
Mhm.
exactly what any CEO is looking for in a candidate. What
Mm.
are we looking for when someone applies for a job? We want
Mm.
someone who is dedicated. We want someone who is passionate. We want someone who is committed. We
Mm.
want someone who has the desire to
Mm.
grow. This simple list that I just gave you, even though it's not all conclusive in itself, just because of time, I just want to pick a few. You realize that most companies will train you for the job they hired you for. And
Mhm.
if it
Mhm.
was an issue of you being good at that job, they
Wow.
wouldn't have trained you for the job.
That's powerful.
That is exactly what God is doing with men. Whatever God wants to do with us, He will train us for it. God
Mm.
is not looking for finished or polished vessels. He
Wow.
is looking for vessels or people who are committed, who are disciplined, who have passion for Him, and who are willing to grow with Him. Does
Wow.
that sound like a resume you will present to a job? Exactly. And this is the secret to why certain people, when they have found God, their life become so extraordinary. May I use the words signs and wonders unto us, because God is always looking for people. And
Wow.
the things that he is looking for people is the same things that you are looking for in a wife. It's
Wow.
the same things that a future wife is looking for
Yeah.
in a husband. In fact, the things that God is looking for in man is the same thing that as parents we are looking for in our children.
Wow.
Sister
Wow.
Candace, this is how God designed his world. He designed it so that when we see what he has made, it will cause us to want to know him because he is the excellent maker. He is the master designer. And
Mm.
so if I see these qualities in a man or a woman, the very moment I identify those qualities or those things that I'm looking for, automatically is supposed to point me to the one who made that possible.
Mm.
But unfortunately, we live in a time that when we find what we are looking for in a person, we forget to look for the one who put it in that person in the first place.
Wow. This is very powerful. And I'm thinking, should we okay, so if a person is looking for a finished product or is looking for something that has it all, know it all, are we deceiving ourselves to look for that? Because from what you've talked about, you've made us understand that in a job setting, the employer trains them, the new hired employee or whatever. And with God too, he's not looking for someone who can already preach. Let's just say that he will guide you through, he will train you through. In bringing it to our level, is it a deceptive thing to do if you're expecting someone to be able to be at that level first? Like, I want a wife. I want someone who has
Mm,
everything that is in a wife. Not what you mentioned, but what we mean by a wife. Like, you can already tell they can be a mother. You can tell
mm,
they can
mm,
make babies. You can tell. Like when all these go out of place, should we not pick such a person? So I just
wow.
want to know, are we deceiving ourselves if we're expecting the conclusion of someone or the completeness of a person before we pick them?
Yes, Sister Candice, that's a very powerful application question that you just asked. And the answer is unfortunately not very straightforward, but I would say 70-30, we are deceiving ourselves.
Okay.
And the reason why I would say that, you read the Bible, and I love it when the Bible emphatically answers a question of practical living before we even ask, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so In the book of Proverbs, chapter 31, when you read from verse 10, it talks about qualities of this virtuous or good woman
Mm-hmm.
who we would call today as the ideal wife.
Right.
But the very first sentence of to the preview to these qualities is
Mm-hmm.
actually a question. And he says that who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find the ideal wife?
Wow.
So it asks that question and then it lists all of them. And the reason why, in my humble opinion, the scripture that did that in that particular instance, and it does it in many instances, is that it's trying to tell you that if you are looking for these things
You
before you
find.
actually find the woman, you probably will never find that person.
Mm,
Whether God looking for men or men looking for men. One of the key things we look for, Sister Candice, is adaptability. That is where growth and transformation comes in. The
mm,
person who is already made is not adaptable. And so, right from there, we go against our standard for recruitment
mm,
because the ideal worker has to be adaptable. The
mm,
man that God is looking for has to be adaptable because God expects growth and expects transformation. Your
mm.
employer expects growth and transformation once you come on board in the business. And
Wow.
so, if you find someone who is already made, you have already gone against one of the key principles or one of the key what is that you are looking for.
Mm.
Adaptability is an uncompromising quality of an ideal worker.
True. True.
And so, why would God's standard be less than that of man?
Wow. 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 Wow.
So, when we understand these things, then we stop looking for finished products.
Mm.
We begin to look for those or the kinds of people that God is looking for. So, Sister Candice, what is God looking for? Let me give our audience just a very brief list of what God is looking for in any man.
Mhm.
All right. And then once we start our character studies, Sister Candice, these things will become more clearer to our audience. But one of the first things that God is looking for in a man is that God is looking for men who can be tried,
Mm.
men who can be tried or tested.
Tested.
God will always test the person he uses.
Wow.
It doesn't matter what you came from, what you've done before. No matter what, God will test you. And so, if you see yourself as one who has been found by God and you have not been tested yet, then brace yourself. Your test is coming. And
Mm.
why is testing important? Because, Sister Candice, testing is what reveals dedication.
And I believe commitment too, right?
Correct. So, dedication and commitment is something that is reviewed by testing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the Bible, numerous times it talks about being tried by fire.
Mm.
Why? Because, Sister Candace, the spiritual litmus test for Christians is fire. It's not water, it's not vapor, it's not books, it's not knowledge, it's not wisdom, it's
Mm.
fire.
Gotta go through it.
You have to go through that fire. And so, God, in His mercy, has given us numerous examples in the Old and New Testaments as to why we have to go through the fire.
Mm.
Why? Because He says we are as precious as gold,
Mm.
and pure gold must go through fire.
To be purged.
If you don't go through that test of fire, you will not be that gold. And without being that vessel of gold, unfortunately, your work will not reveal God. And God is looking for people that He will reveal Himself through.
Mm. Mm.
You can even take that as the second point, right? As the
Yeah.
second thing that God is looking for. So that is one of the primary things that God is looking for in men. And so when you take a biblical character like Joseph, Joseph had to undergo this testing. And what did the test reveal? The test revealed his commitment to God. Remember his temptation with Potiphar's wife. He said that, how will I do this to
Again.
sin against my
God.
God? So he passed the test of commitment there. And then he goes to prison.
Oh, wow.
Sister Candice, what other test did Joseph pass to show his dedication? We've talked about the commitment. Well, let's talk about his dedication to the gift God had given him in interpreting dreams. Do you recall that he interpreted the dreams of two people and told the butler that when you have been restored to your position by Pharaoh, remember me? But the Bible says that the butler forgot about Joseph. And so he became bitter. How do we know that Joseph's bitterness towards his brothers were forgiven before he ascended to become the second in command to Pharaoh? Because when another dream came, Joseph, because he had let go of all the past hurt in his life, he was willing to again interpret dreams,
Another dream.
even though interpreting a dream left pain in his life.
Mm.
In fact, his being sold into slavery was because of dreams.
Yeah.
So he had every reason to let go of
Way of it.
gifting, but he didn't. He
Wow.
stayed committed. So God will always, always test. It doesn't matter what time it comes. Some people, it comes early. Some people, it comes later. No matter what it is, as a vessel of God, you will be tested.
Mm.
So, Sister Candice, for the sake of time, let me just list a few, right? So, what are other things that God is looking for in men? God is looking for men who are humble. We cannot go away from this.
Mm-hmm.
And why is this important? Well, imagine yourself as a CEO who has self-built your company to a global or a national scale. Do you think you will hire a manager who will be insubordinate to you?
Mm.
I
Mm.
doubt you are looking for such a man.
Mm.
Again, God's standards can never be less than man's standard.
Wow.
And so now you begin to see why I say that when we want to find out what God is looking for in men, let's find out what men are looking for in other men.
Right.
What about reliability?
Mm-hmm.
God is looking for people who will be there, not here today and not there tomorrow. Why? Because reliability is a measure of trust.
Mm. Mm.
You cannot trust an unreliable person. And for God to put trust in you, you must be a reliable person. And
Wow.
so God will bring many, many things your way to see if you are trustworthy. That's where we get that word. It's all about being reliable.
Wow. Wow.
Sister Candice, I don't think we have time to talk about integrity and patience and the ability to withstand rejection. I don't think we have time to go into the details of all these. How about accountability and things of that nature? These are all things that God is looking for in men.
Wow.
And outside our knowledge of the Bible, proving these things to us, you yourself as a person have proven it over and over again in your life
Yeah.
because these are the people you are wanting to associate with.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is very powerful and it helps even with normal relationship like friendships and because and I think it will be an education as to also what we should look for, to making friends, um
Absolutely.
dating and stuff like that because we have all these lists and none of what you just said is in it. The person has to have a lot of hair and all these nonsense that we look for these days. But I'm really thinking about what you're saying, and it's I'm a very realist sometimes, taking things to practicality. And I'm seeing how it transcends into day-to-day activities. And I'm thinking to myself, like when I'm walking with someone and they show certain characters, why I withdraw. And I'm
Mm,
getting the answer here. I withdraw because they did something that informed me that in the future, if I do something, that they might never forgive me.
correct.
Because right now, I'm seeing that they're holding a grudge against your mother.
Mm,
The crime may not be the same, but it's telling me something about the person's heart, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So this is very powerful, and it can be seen in so many ways. And even for, there are people, they will tell you, I don't know why people come in my life and they leave, people this, and they don't want to talk to me anymore. They don't
mm-hmm,
We're not as close as we started. Check yourself with these. This is hour of healing, right?
mm-hmm,
This might be what that person is looking for, because they probably already know, or they have this knowledge that we are talking
mm-hmm,
about. So your actions are telling them something that you have never said that you would do. You're telling them you can trust
mm-hmm,
me, but your actions are telling them you cannot be trusted.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
these are very powerful things. And I know when we go on to the following topics under this, the subtopics, we'll talk more about what God is looking for, i.e., what people are also looking for.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
I want us to get into one last question before we wrap up today.
Sure, sure.
When we talk about what God is looking for, we've talked about that extensively right now. But where is there a specific place that
Mm,
God can find such a person, right?
mm,
To bring it to our level also, is there a place for me to look for someone to look for? You
mm,
know, we
mm.
have social media, people looking there, but is there the right place or a specific place that God can find such a person?
That is a very powerful question, Sister Candice. And I don't know if we have time to go through all of that, but I will try to give our audience maybe three and just be very brief about them, right? So, where are the places that you can find such men? Sister Candice, again, the answer will probably shock a few people and it will cause a few hairs to bubble. The people that God are looking for, and by approximation, the people that we are looking for, are found in one, hidden places,
Mm,
two, vulnerable places or broken places,
mm,
three, rejected places.
interesting.
And Sister Candice, these three places are the places that we mostly don't look.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the places that God has made it a business and a principle
Wow.
throughout scripture to look for such people. Why? Because the people who are not humble, who are proud, will never go to vulnerable or broken places. They
Wow.
will never be found in rejected places. Why? Because the last rejection they suffered as a test bruised their ego so much that they are hell bent on being found at places of honor only.
Wow.
But for you to be brought to the place of honor, you must first be in the place of rejection. Because if you have not been rejected, you will not value honor. If
Mm,
you have not faced the drums of those who say we don't like you, you wouldn't know how to handle the applause of those who say we like you.
wow. Wow. Wow.
So these are
These are powerful stuff. Oh.
so Sister Candice, we often hear of the word hidden gem. Hidden gem. Why do we say, oh, I found the hidden gem? I found the hidden gem. You found the hidden gem because it was in hiding.
Mm,
The
mm.
virtuous woman or the ideal man you are looking for is not out there in the streets. They are in a basement somewhere building their character. And I'm using this metaphorically. Sister Candice, do you know where I call such a place? I call it the wilderness.
Mm,
Every true giant killer trains in the wilderness. The one who is training in the street or in the palace have not learned the secret to making mistakes. And when you face your giant without the appropriate experience from mistakes, you will lose your head.
Mm-hmm.
Sister Candice, when we talk about David, I will help our audience understand by the mercies of God that when Goliath told David that I will kill you and cut off your head, he was not joking. What he said was true, because that is what he had done to every opponent that he had faced. He knew that was the result of anyone who stood before him. The difference is that he didn't know that this time around he was coming to face a person who had been rejected by everyone in his life, including his own father. And so the only place that David could have trained was in the wilderness. Because, Sister Candice, without being in hiding, without being rejected, without being vulnerable, training never becomes complete. Your trustworthiness is questionable. Be mindful, my dear audience, of trusting a person who has never been broken. Be very, very mindful. So many people are hurting today because they are trusting people who have never been broken and who have never been rejected. Friends, do you know that regardless of how good your life is, how godly your life is, you will reject certain things about even the virtuous woman or man that you find? And so if they've never faced rejection, what do you think will be their reaction or response the very first time they face that coming from the person that they claim they love, quote unquote?
Wow.
When God finds a man.
Wow.
This, I pray, is a lesson for us to be able to dive into certain aspects of the wisdom of God as to how He made His world and how He wants us to be able to thrive in this world that we live in. Friends, I will end with this. Sister Candice, I want our audience to understand that the man or woman that God is looking for is not any strange person. It's the very man or every single CEO, every single headmaster, every single parent, every single bachelor or bachelorette is looking for. And that is a man who has been tested, a man who is humble, a man who is adaptable, a man who is dedicated. I know this is not an exhaustive list, but let me just leave you with this. And friends, the only place you can find such men is in the hidden, rejected, and broken places.
Wow. This is so powerful. I want us to keep going. But wow. So when God finds a man, this is, I don't want to say part one. This is going to be one of the most powerful series that we've done. And I need you to keep looking out for it. It's right. I've learned so much. A lot of questions has been answered. A lot of certain things, has been healed. This is powerful. You need to share this with your loved ones. Don't forget to follow us on our social media handles, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Hour of Healing, and also YouTube, Hour of Healing with Dr. Joe Deborah. Podcast, share it with your loved ones. And we hope to see you here same time next week. God bless you so much, and bye-bye.